In order to change the tragic ending of the vicious supporting female character, I chose to pursue the gentle second male lead with a leg injury. But just a day before I succeeded in capturing his heart, he brought back a ragged and frail girl. She wore my clothes and moved into our house. No matter how hard I tried, it was all futile in the face of the female lead's halo. He still fell in love with the female lead. My actions have become increasingly uncontrollable. Just now, when Lily accidentally shattered my bracelet, my emotions started to break down. Before I could even react, I found myself holding up the shards against her face. Lily apologized tearfully. And John happened to appear, pushing me aside to save the female lead. Disappointment was evident in John's slightly furrowed brow and eyes. "I'm sorry for breaking your bracelet. I'll compensate you," Lily said through tears. All of Lily's clothes were bought by John, so she couldn't afford to compensate for the bracelet worth millions. With a cold face, John shielded her behind him. "No need for you to compensate, it's just a bracelet." This farce ended with my departure. I sat by the window, tightly clutching my wrist. What have I just done, holding the shattered bracelet against Lily's face? If John hadn't shown up, I might have actually cut her face. "Host, the female lead has appeared, and your vicious supporting female character setting has been activated. Which means, whenever the female lead is involved, you will act like today. Forced to follow the plot, forced to become unrecognizable even to myself. Is there any way out?" There was one originally. Just convince the second male lead to leave with you to escape the plot of the vicious supporting female character. But he still met the female lead. Just one day away. I still don't want to watch myself turn into a vicious supporting female character. Or rather, I still want to try. Before John completely falls for the female lead, can I persuade him to leave me? In the study, John sat in his custom wheelchair, his cold white fingertips gripping the armrest, his long legs constrained under his trousers. I crouched down, fingers pressing against his calf muscle. John was a bit distracted at first before looking down at me. Over the years, I had learned nursing methods from many experts for John's legs. After much contemplation, I tentatively spoke up. "John, I've arranged an appointment with a famous doctor abroad who should be able to help with your legs." After a while, he replied indifferently, "Okay. I'll apologize to Lily for what happened earlier." John maneuvered the wheelchair backward, avoiding my touch. "Victoria, you seem to have a particular animosity towards her. You can see her as a pitiful person. Sold to a business partner by her uncle, almost tarnished, she barely escaped and saw John as her savior straw." John felt sorry for her, and it made sense. But, is she really just a pitiful person to him? An unease rose in my heart. "I'm just scared that you will fall for her." I waited for John at the airport for an hour. Until the announcement for boarding stopped, there was no sign of John. Only continuous busy signals on the phone. I then called John's assistant. "Victoria, Lily is injured, and John is in the hospital with her." I grabbed my luggage and headed straight to the city hospital. Lily had bandages on her head but no other injuries visible. "Victoria, why are you here?" She looked surprised at my presence. John seemed quite surprised too. "I raised my phone, I called you, but you didn't answer. The assistant told me you were here." John's eyes darkened, remaining silent. After a moment, Lily spoke. "John's phone broke when he brought me to the hospital." Upon hearing Lily's voice, John suddenly looked panicked, glancing at me. Simultaneously, I lost control, almost blurting out, "Shut up." Lily was startled by my outburst, tears welling up in her eyes. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to," I said coldly. "You seem alright, I'll help you with the discharge procedures in a bit." "Victoria." There was a reprimanding tone in John's voice. He quickly wheeled to Lily's bedside, an oppressive aura emanating from him. He seemed like a different person. He had never spoken to me with such an attitude before. "John, don't be angry," Lily hastened to intervene. Upon hearing her, he turned back, gently comforting the woman in the hospital bed. "When you recover, we'll arrange for more tests for you. Don't dwell on other matters for now." The way John looked at her was as if she were a twinkle in his eye. I recalled when we first got together. He held my hand, watching the sunset, softly calling my name. The moment I leaned in, he kissed my cheek. Back then, no matter how many people warned him, he believed in me unconditionally, just like he seems to now, shielding me. Refusing to let John see me in tears, I dashed out of the hospital room, the sound of wheelchair wheels rolling followed from behind. "Victoria, what's been going on with you lately?" Suppressing my discomfort, I asked, holding on to the last hope, hoping that the years of friendship would outweigh his love at first sight for the female lead. "John, can you ignore Lily and go abroad with me?" But from behind, John coldly spoke, "You go abroad alone. All expenses are arranged by the assistant." "John, I don't need money. I'll ask you one last time, are you really unwilling to leave with me?" John avoided my gaze. "I have other matters to attend to. Lily still needs me." My heart turned cold. I pulled my hand back and left the hospital. It started to drizzle on the way. I recalled the first time I met John was also on a rainy day. I didn't have an umbrella. He wheeled up to me and held out an umbrella for me. "Let's walk together," he said. He draped his coat over my shoulders and got half of himself wet. Lost in thoughts, I walked slowly on the deserted street. A metallic sound rang out. "Host, the second male lead has entered the storyline and it's hard to change now." System, when will I be completely assimilated by the plot and lose my autonomy? Nicely put, it's losing autonomy. Harshly put, it's complete annihilation. Host, probably within a month. 1 month. There are still many things to do. I carried my luggage back home. Tried several times, but the password was wrong. It was only when the butler heard the commotion and opened the door. Password changed? John. As he spoke, the butler realized his mistake and quickly stopped. The original password was the day John and I met. He said he would set everything related to me as that password. Because the day he met me was his luckiest day. I didn't ask what the current password was changed to. It didn't matter anymore. A childish dog's bark brought me back to reality. Max ran out of the room. These days, because Lily was afraid of dogs, John had kept the lively Max locked in a closed room. Only when Lily was not around could he come out. Max had lost weight. Don't blame John. He just rescued Lily from those self-righteous people. Lily is still a bit shy due to her traumatic past. To prevent her from getting stressed, he can only accommodate her. Ever since Lily appeared, the butler who had been with me for 3 years began to favor her. The decorations in the house were all based on Lily's preferences. She was gradually eroding the home I had built, 1 brick at a time. And she was slowly eroding me too. Her sad background, pitiful nature, kind heart, whereas I was envious and vengeful. Such a stark contrast. Everyone loves the female lead, this newcomer. The only exception, Max. Only it unconditionally chose me, or favored me. Lily feared it, and it never showed any affection towards Lily. But whenever it was around, as soon as Lily approached me, it would stand in front of me, barking frantically until Lily left. Max was the dog I found in the pile of bricks on the roadside. When I saw it, its fur was stuck together with mud and rainwater. Although thin, there were no serious illnesses. I squatted down, and the little dog tentatively walked towards me. They all say I chose Max. But wasn't it Max who chose me? And became my angel. "Max, do you want to come with me?" I fed Max a whole bowl of food. After eating contentedly, he lay on my lap and fell asleep. John didn't come home until late. Max heard his voice first and tried to open the door. I followed Max to the door, and before John came in, I picked Max up and took him back to the room. "Victoria." With John's voice, I suddenly stopped walking. "Why didn't you go abroad?" He rescheduled my flight, but I didn't go. The scent of smoke wafted over. John had just smoked before entering. Calmly, I said, "Whether to go abroad is not important anymore, John. Let's break up." As the words fell, Max suddenly jumped out of my arms and bit John's trouser leg desperately, trying to pull him towards me. Victoria, John reached out, as if he wanted to pick it up. But suddenly, the butler hurried over. John, those people are bothering Lily again. John frowned, didn't even look back, and left. A warm and moist touch on my face. Max, he doesn't want us anymore. So we don't want him either, okay? Max lay at my feet, nuzzling gently against my ankle. It was almost dawn. There was another commotion outside. I looked out the window and saw John and Lily coming back. The woman's petite body curled up in the wheelchair. She didn't look too well, and judging from John's tense expression, Lily must have been frightened. Suddenly, a small figure dashed out from the side. Max. I watched Max slip through the door crack, wagging its tail, running quickly towards the man at the door. Lily was so scared that she grabbed John's neck and huddled in his arms. John saw Max, his eyes darkened. Get lost. Max was frightened by him, whimpering softly, ears drooping. John, I'm scared. She was trembling all over. Max slowly took steps forward, but was kicked away by John. Animals are just animals. Butler, take care of it. Okay. The butler suddenly picked up Max. All of Max's limbs were fluttering in resistance. No. I ran after them. Ignoring my light clothes and barefoot, my foot twisted and I fell to the ground, sharp gravel embedding into my palms, blood mixing with flesh. John's people stopped me. I watched as the butler put a sack over Max, walking out like he was taking out the trash. I shouted, but he didn't look back. One by one, the pitiful barks of the dog grew weaker. My heart slowly turned cold. Until there was no more sound from Max. John casually shifted his gaze back. I raised my hand and slapped John. Suddenly, Lily, who was trembling all over, stretched out an arm with many red marks, stopping John, and her pale face showed a hint of determination. Victoria, don't blame John. I lost control and said harsh words. If you want to intervene, I'll hit you too. What are you compared to Max? John tightly hugged the trembling Lily, looking at me with uncontrollable anger. Just a dog. Do you need to be like this? Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. You know, he's not just a stray dog. Even if John was destined to fall in love with Lily. But why did his nature change so much? That was Max. Not just a random dog, but our baby that we raised together. It was him who slowly nurtured Max with love, bit by bit. Max did not fight back against John even when the butler took him away. He trusted John until the very last moment. You killed Max just because she was afraid. If I do something to Lily, will you kill me too? I sneered, grabbed the small knife next to me, aimed it at Lily in John's arms, and stabbed it. Blood flowed slowly down the blade. The maid screamed for a doctor. Lily was unharmed. It was John who stood in front of Lily, gripping the blade I had stabbed with his hand. It finally dawned on me what I had done. Trembling hands released the knife. But John, seemingly impervious to pain, tightened his grip on the knife, making the blood flow faster. His face, darkened with anger, was terrifying. He asked me coldly, Victoria, are you really going to become a madwoman? John, I am willing to give up now, so why? Why didn't you even leave Max for me? When the butler returned, I grabbed his hand with my last bit of strength. Where is Max's body? The butler glanced at John. John calmly said, thrown into the river. I looked towards the river, desperate to go out. But John stopped me. With the last trace of strength drained, I despaired and passed out. When I woke up again, John was by my side, his large hand covering mine. I pulled my hand back. John noticed that I was awake. Victoria, is there anything uncomfortable? His brows slightly relaxed, and for a moment, I was confused. He seemed to have returned to the man who treated me gently before. In the first year we were together, I had a serious illness. I had a high fever that wouldn't go away, and no matter how many doctors I consulted, it didn't improve. At that time, John had just taken over the company, the foundation was not yet stable, and there were piles of urgent matters in the company that he had to deal with. The butler advised him to go back to the company first, as there were many caregivers and doctors taking care of me here. But John moved all his office supplies into my sick room. He was with me when I woke up. He handled the company's affairs when I fell asleep. He stayed awake for several nights in a row like that. My condition deteriorated rapidly. John knelt on the ground step by step, praying for my safety. For more than half a year finally, my illness began to improve. He held my hand and said, "Victoria, I will never give up on you no matter what." But after Lily appeared, he forgot our past. I saw the gauze on the palm of his hand and the painful memories choked me. I pushed him away suddenly. "John, I hate you." His eyes darkened, and he compromised. "Hate me if you want." I looked at him in despair. "John, can you let me leave?" Whenever I look at John, I can still hear Max's cries that night. Even with my ears covered, the sound continues. It torments me day and night. John coldly refused. "No. Either you listen to the arrangements to go abroad, or you stay at home and can't go anywhere." I pounced on him like crazy, biting his arm hard with my teeth. John tightly pursed his lips, not making a sound. "Why do you have the right to imprison me? Victoria, come to your senses. Do you know what you have done these past few days?" "A few days? Didn't I just faint for one night?" I glanced at the clock. It had been 3 days. A bad premonition suddenly struck me. I asked, "What did I do?" John hid his emotions well. "Victoria, rest well." I got out of bed and went to the kitchen. Only Mary was there. Mary was someone I had selected to help out in the house before, and we had a good relationship. "Mary, is there anything to eat in the kitchen?" No response. "Mary?" I asked again. But she suddenly stepped back, eyes full of fear. "Victoria. What's wrong?" "Victoria." Mary panicked and stepped back again. She hurriedly lowered her head and said, I have something to do, the butler is looking for me." System, why is Mary so afraid of me? Host, yesterday you got very angry and forced them to cut up Lily's clothes. Me? It seems that I am being swallowed up by the plot much faster than I thought. Why did you come to the kitchen? John came out of the study and frowned slightly when he saw me. I forced a smile, just looking for something to eat at this time. The butler sent someone to deliver a lot of clothing styles. After signaling to John, they were all sent to Lily's room. I wanted to ask something, but I saw John bowing his head and replying to messages. He kept refreshing and typing many words in the chat box only to delete them. I couldn't fool myself anymore. He had fallen in love with someone else. He suddenly looked nervous as he replied to the other person. "Victoria, I have something to do right now. I'll be back later to see you." Sure enough, he was going to see the leading lady. I chuckled self-deprecatingly, turned around, closed my eyes, and ignored him. John didn't come back all day. The next day, the butler told me that John and Lily would stay outside, and here was left for me. I had less than a month left and couldn't be imprisoned here. At night, while the butler was asleep, I climbed down from the window with a rope. But now that I had truly gained freedom, I realized I had nowhere to go. The wind outside was too cold. I gritted my teeth, tightened the few clothes I had, and headed in the direction of the river where Max was taken. Regardless, Max couldn't die in the icy river. So, I spent most of my money to urgently hire a salvage team. In the middle of the night, the wind by the river was unusually cold, stabbing deep into my bones. A group of people worked tirelessly by the river, but in the end, they had to regretfully inform me of the unfortunate news. "Victoria, he can't be found." Max perhaps was angry with me. After salvaging until early morning, they still couldn't find him. I paid them and waved to dismiss them. I stood by the river, looking at the unfathomable depths of the riverbed, feeling utterly drained. "Max, Mom is sorry." The tears fell one by one on the soil. Max used to hate the cold rainy days. But now he died in the river. Endless self-blame and internal struggles made my already weak body even weaker. A gust of cold wind hit me. I couldn't hold my body anymore, and I collapsed on the ground, powerless. Breathing became difficult, and my consciousness started to blur. Maybe in less than a month, possibly even today, I would die here. Well, at least dying by Max's side wouldn't be too bad. Victoria. Why is John here? He draped his coat over me, picked me up, and carried me in his arms. He seemed really worried. But why? Even though he no longer loved me, John hurriedly took me to the hospital. By the time we arrived, I had a high fever of 39, burning up entirely. The doctor scolded us. Do you have no idea about your own body? And you, as a boyfriend, don't know how to take care of your girlfriend? I shook off his hand and tried to explain to the doctor. John sarcastically remarked, Victoria, you seem to remember well that we have broken up. I'm in the hospital. I'm on medication, getting intravenous drips. After rushing back and forth, John sat down exhaustedly in a chair, closing his eyes to rest. Just when I thought he had fallen asleep and I wanted to escape, he opened his eyes, his dark eyes like a foggy mist. Where do you think you're going? He said coldly. I turned over, facing away from him. Anywhere but by your side. He locked the door and closed the window. Your health is already delicate, and you are still doing this? The butler informed me that you fled, otherwise, I wouldn't have found you so quickly. Then he added, if you do this again, I won't bother. I don't need you to bother. I shrugged, it doesn't matter to me. If I die, it's even better. Victoria. John raised his voice, visibly anxious. Don't say such things. I didn't care, closing my eyes in silence. I would leave sooner or later. Just like John was destined to fall in love with the main female character. His current feelings towards me were probably just guilt. John, whether I live or die, it has nothing to do with you anymore. But no matter what you do, I won't let you leave here. Only 2 weeks left. It's a shame I'm in this place. I don't know when Lily will meet the male lead, and then let John also taste the bitterness of unrequited love. John was probably afraid I would die at home, so he arranged another place for me. Well, it's quiet. As long as Lily doesn't show up, I can at least maintain my sanity. But my coughing has been getting worse recently. I have less time to get out of bed. I get tired quickly. I probably won't get better. Even the system was in a panic, not knowing what to do. Host, such a severe reaction shouldn't happen. Even when being obliterated, one shouldn't suffer like this. It's a heart disease. Besides, I didn't want to live in the first place. John comes to see me from time to time. But we have nothing to say to each other. Most of the time, we sit in silence. Seeing John spending more and more time with me lately, I started to think that Lily must have met the male lead. The weather was nice today. The sun was shining brightly. I rarely spoke up. John, I want to go outside and soak up some sun. John softly agreed and had someone take me outside. But just as the door opened, I took the opportunity to escape. John didn't expect me to run, even with my health deteriorating. I had already planned everything. If I had the chance to leave this door, I would take a detour to avoid John and run far away. Unfortunately, as soon as I managed to escape, I was kidnapped. In a dim, damp underground room, I was thrown into a corner while 2 tough guys looked at a photo. My eyesight was deteriorating, and I couldn't see their faces clearly. I said casually, just kill me, I won't live much longer anyway. They ignored me, continuing to speak in a dialect I couldn't understand. After a while, they approached me and pointed to the photo on the phone, asking, "Are you Lily?" It seemed they got the wrong person. I'm not her. The man beside them panicked. It looks like we really got the wrong person. She looks nothing like Lily. What should we do? The leader gave a look. What can we do? Keep her for now, she might be useful. Quickly, let's go kidnap Lily. I spoke up without much thought. Kidnapping me won't work. How do you know it won't work? I said calmly, you don't seem to be after me. You must have some conflict with John. The man spoke in broken Mandarin. John took all of our business, disrupting our profit. There's a price to pay for cutting off someone's wealth. It's a matter of interest. But I wasn't interested. Overwhelmed by fatigue, I leaned my head back against the pillar. I also hate him. What a coincidence. A man exclaimed joyfully, found it. This woman is John's ex-girlfriend, Victoria. It seems like a matter of past relationships. Maybe it will work. Several more people gathered around. She's quite pretty, isn't she? How about a deal, brothers? Look at her, she's covered in illnesses. What if she dies during it's bad luck? Another suggested, let's handle her gently then. I pleaded, I'm on the verge of death, can't you show some respect to a dying person? But they were not inclined to listen. As they approached me, I loosened the rope, grabbed a wooden board from the ground, and smashed it towards their heads. Then I immediately ran towards the door. I may be frail, but I'm not stupid. If you kidnap me, am I supposed to sit here and wait to die? Hurry, catch her. I ran for my life, but ultimately succumbed to the limitations of my body, falling to the ground with no more strength left. The men behind me raised a wooden stick, ready to strike. Woof! Suddenly, a dog rushed in from the door, pushing the men back far. Then he pounced on it, biting desperately. Others aimed their weapons at the dog. The barking of the dog mixed with the yelling of the people. Suddenly, another figure appeared at the door. A commanding voice rang out, "Didn't you want me to come? Here I am." I recognized the voice, John. He actually showed up. Maybe the kidnappers got the name wrong, and John thought they had caught Lily, so he came over without hesitation. "John, you finally showed up. Maybe we should settle our accounts now," I said. John drove his car slowly towards me. He sounded resigned. "I told you not to run around. I didn't know you had enemies who would mistakenly catch me." John sighed softly. "I'm here, you go." I looked at him with complex emotions. Lily is not here. I know. The little dog tugged at my pants leg and pulled me away. "John, did you really come alone?" John didn't answer directly. "You go first." "Did I say I can leave?" The man in charge spoke, and a few people surrounded the door. The man showed a confident smile. "John, we're here to talk business. If we reach an agreement, everything will be fine for all of you." He handed over a document to John. After carefully reading it, John suddenly threw the document into the air, saying, "Dream on." After uttering those words coldly, he quickly drove his wheelchair towards the door. "Stop him." There was a muffled groan as a stick hit John's disabled leg. John winced in pain, grabbed my hand, and pushed me out of the basement amidst the chaos. Even though John was skilled at handling the wheelchair, he couldn't match a group of people with healthy legs. He was overwhelmed. With one blow, he was knocked off the wheelchair. "John! John!" His men rushed forward and into the basement. The assistant helped John up from the ground, and Lily followed, supporting John. "John, are you okay?" John's pale face broke into a smile, reassuring her, "I'm fine, don't worry." I pointed to his leg. "Don't push yourself, that blow was pretty heavy." The assistant and Lily accompanied John to see a doctor. The people in the basement were taken to the police station in a hurry. Woof! The little dog next to me wagged its tail. "Thank you for just now." As I bent down to pet him, I noticed a scar on his front paw from a cigarette, but it was Max. It was Max. "Max, you're not dead." I knelt down, hugging him tightly. Max nuzzled my arm gently with his head. With Max by my side, the empty room didn't feel as lonely anymore. Max would bring a toy ball for us to play with. He would lie down by my feet and act cute. Occasionally, he would misbehave by tearing up a pillow or a roll of paper. I heard that John's leg injury was severe, but fortunately, it was treated in time and didn't worsen. Otherwise, his leg might have needed amputation. But I felt like there was nothing wrong with his leg. After all, John would occasionally come from far away to bring toys and treats for Max. And to check if I had escaped. Often I wanted to ask him why Max didn't die. Or why he lied to me. But every time I brought it up, John would make an excuse to leave. This routine went on for a week. On the second to last day, John came to have dinner with me. I caught sight of the scars and marks on his arm. John noticed my gaze and quickly covered his sleeve. He probably did something for Lily in private again. "John, will you watch the stars with me?" I asked him. We had promised to count the stars from the highest place when his leg healed. To make a wish to always stay together. Surprisingly, John agreed this time, "Sure." On a moonlit night, John said, "We didn't see many stars." I didn't tell him. I had never seen the stars from start to finish. I couldn't see the stars from then on. On the last day, I couldn't sleep from midnight. I got up and walked to the desk unconsciously. I casually opened a sketchbook and started reminiscing about the past with John. He held an umbrella for me, and I hid a piece of paper with my contact information in his suit pocket. Despite his initial rejection, I knew he would cover me with his coat while I slept, have hot meals prepared for me, remember my preferences. I saw him write my name on a piece of paper, fold it into a star, and put it in a bottle. He accompanied me to the animal shelter to visit the dogs and cats. He confessed at sunrise. He secretly sketched me reading books. He said I was his first and only love. I believed he had genuinely loved me passionately. He had approached me wholeheartedly. But I simply didn't have the time or courage to continue. "Max, I'm sorry. I'm leaving you behind in the end." I gently touched Max's head. Max seemed to sense something, hugged me tightly, his eyes showing sadness. "I know you don't want me to go, but, Max, I have to leave." Instead of facing death, I feared becoming unrecognizable. I filled Max's bowl with food. As I reached the window, a guest arrived, Lily. It was surprising that the last person I would see in this world was her. "I want to talk about John with you," she said. I refused her. "There's nothing to talk about. Victoria, I also like John." I was lost for a moment. I realized everything in hindsight. Lily hesitated before speaking. "I know you and I are both bound by the system, but are you really going to give up on yourself?" I turned to look at her, and after a moment, I calmly and slowly replied, "People are selfish, so when you came to find me, you didn't just want to convince me not to leave, right? You're afraid that if I die, you'll never be able to conquer me right now. You can't be sure if John no longer loves me completely. You're still wary of my past with him. You can't compete with a dead person." Lily was speechless. I chuckled lightly. "So, you want me to stay alive, huh? But you'll be disappointed." I locked her outside the door. "It's truly a beautiful day today. System, farewell." I closed my eyes and took that step. So cold. Even on a clear and sunny day. Surprisingly cold. Out of the corner of my eye, John tumbled uncontrollably from his wheelchair. And Max ran to the window. Woof. "Victoria. John, I believe you have your reasons. But next time, please be braver. Don't leave me behind again." Epilogue. Recently, I've been dreaming of someone. That person sits in a wheelchair, always smiling gently. It's strange, I don't even know him, but whenever I see him, a feeling of sadness wells up inside me. The doctor said I was in a coma for a long time. Maybe many memories still haven't resurfaced. I don't know. The next year, I found a little dog. He was barely alive in a pile of bricks and tiles. But he wasn't afraid of me. I called out to him, and he followed me home. I named him Max. Max always enjoys looking out the window with me. I hope. Endlessly hoping. It seems like one day, I will meet that person from my dreams just like I met Max. Since the female lead Lily appeared, I find myself uncontrollably drawn to her. Whenever I resist the plotline, there will be consequences. If not on me, then on Victoria. A year ago, the severe illness Victoria had was a punishment for me defying the plot by not wanting to save the female lead who was barely alive. I dare not gamble with fate. I am afraid of losing Victoria. The day before leaving the country, fate made me encounter Lily again. I thought as long as I said harsh words, followed the plot by neglecting Victoria, she wouldn't be hurt. But that's not how it works. Victoria loses control whenever she meets Lily. Every day, I remind myself constantly. Can't let Victoria get hurt. Can't forget Victoria. Can't be consumed by the plot. Every time I say harsh words to Victoria or she gets hurt, I carve a cut on my wrist. Only pain and scars can keep me awake. I thought that as soon as the plot with Lily was over, Victoria and I would embrace our happy future. But Victoria's health deteriorated day by day. I wanted to save her, so I finally made a deal with this so-called system. The day Victoria comes home, I will give up my autonomy. Completely consumed by the plot. I just didn't expect that Victoria would end her life in such an extreme way. But in that moment when she jumped, I felt my autonomy dissipating. It's okay, it's okay. She's back home. Victoria, please don't blame me.